We've reached 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's 6 p.m. in the evening where I am. I'm connecting from London today. Excited to be with you. I hope you're all having a great couple of sessions so far. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into mine. Title today is From Dreams to Dollars. It's a simple approach to creating a business that you can sell or finding one that you can buy. Brief introduction about me. My name is Mike Finger. Again, I'm active on LinkedIn on this topic and would love to see you connect over there. I have been lucky enough in my career to be an 8-time small business owner. I have had 4 successful exits from those businesses. I've had 2 failures. Thankfully, they were fast failures, but failures nonetheless. So I've had that sting as well in my career. And I currently work as a coach to small business owners who are interested in preparing their business for sale. I'm also unapologetically small business. And what does that mean? What that means to me is that all of my businesses have been small. My largest business did about $5 million in annual revenue. And so for our conversation today, we're going to call anything under 5 million small and anything over that a big business. And if we do that, here's what I know. I know that 95% of businesses that exist are small. I know that most everyone watching and listening is only ever going to buy, sell, or own a small business. I know that most of the transactions that take place around the world in terms of buying and selling a business happen in small business. We dominate the market. We are the market. But if that's the case, can anyone explain to me why most of the content we see about buying and selling of businesses is about large businesses? Why is every transaction a $97 million transaction or the latest Google acquisition? It seems like we, as small business owners, are taught that the best or only way for us to succeed is to turn our small business into a big business, that it's the big money that we're supposed to be chasing. And I guess for me, being unapologetically small business is recognizing that there is a wonderful, lucrative life available to you in the process of owning, buying, and selling of a small business. And so my encouragement to you is don't apologize. Join me in being unapologetically small business. I am not here today to tell you or to try to teach you how to get into that 5%, into that big business space. I'm here to talk about how those of us in the 95%, those of us in the small business space, can create real life-changing exits in our business. I'm not a big fan. I don't care a lot about private equity or VCs or the big money. For me, it's about small business. This presentation is for the 95%. To be very clear up front, I am not an expert on buying a business. I have bought 2 businesses personally and turned those around for successful sale. I worked as a broker for a while and also have had a lot of engagement in this space, but I take that word expert seriously. And so I'm sharing with you, I'm not a technical expert about buying a business, but I do know an awful lot, and I know a simple approach to creating a business that someone will want to buy and be able to buy. My space, where I spend most of my time, is in the active engagement of small businesses with their owners and helping them create a business that they can sell. What's of interest to you in that space is that that is a business that is buyable. And This is a wonderful format that we have being virtual, but if I could see a show of hands, if I could hear the groans of the audience when we talk about how hard it is as a potential buyer to find a business that you're able to and worth buying. This demographic of business sellers is one you're probably very familiar with. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to provide content, I'm going to provide information designed to simplify this process, defined to simplify this topic for small business owners, whether they be current owners, aspiring buyers, or sellers. And so that's really what this is about for me, because when I was an owner, when I looked to sell my first business, I thought I had done my homework. I thought I knew the complexities of this space. And the truth of the matter is that I learned a secret as I was going through that, and I'll share that with you in just a second. But to be able to explain this simple approach to you, I'm going to need for you to be able to let go of two things. The first of those is I need you to let go of your unicorn dreams. And what is a unicorn dream? A unicorn dream, if you're listening to the introduction of a podcast, sounds something like this. Bill bought this business last July and has quadrupled the revenue and profit in just 9 months and sold it for a 4x increase in value. This is about Sue, who has bought 12 businesses in the last 4 days, and you can do it too. They are these exceptional, overwhelmingly positive, wonderful stories. Don't get me wrong. I love a good unicorn dream story. I also refer to it as M&A porn. This is the stuff that gets pushed out there that can make us think that this is easy and simple and that the big is right around the corner for us. Why do I want you to let go of that unicorn dream? It's not because I want you to set your sights way lower or not have goals. The key is that there's nothing wrong with these stories as they relate to entertainment. The problem is that we take them as informational. We take them as informative to the process that we go through. And the truth is that is not how it works for the vast majority of small business owners. Unicorn dreams can be real, but they are terrifyingly rare. And so they're almost always about big businesses who have tools and options available that you and I aren't going to in the businesses that we buy and sell. So again, we're talking not about that 5%. We want to focus on that 95%. We want to focus on creating real world exits. So let's put our time and energy into that kind of success that we can actually use to change our life. So let go of your unicorn dreams, but I also need you to set aside the complexity narrative. And what is the complexity narrative? Let's acknowledge the reality that most people who make a living in the buy and sell a business space make that living and are compensated by their mastery of the complexity. What do I mean by that? We're talking about brokers and bankers and attorneys and accountants and all of those folks out there who provide an incredibly valuable service, but have little or no incentive to take this topic and change it from complex to straightforward, right? They make their money knowing what needs to go on line 27 of page 42 of document X, right? They know the latest on this program or that program, and that complexity is important and it's enticing. And it is incredibly dangerous to us as small business owners because it can lead us to believe that a successful exit for us is hidden somewhere in a technical metric or in some secret number buried in our business. Can't tell you how many small business owners I have talked to who have come to the exit table with the belief that the value of their business is buried somewhere deep inside of that business, that there's some secret formula that does it. But here's something that I know you know as an audience of potential business buyers. I know that you know that most small businesses that don't sell, those businesses that you're choosing to pass on as potential purchases, they don't sell because of something simple. It is rarely something deeply buried, or again, some complication that creates the barrier to exit. It is usually something very basic. And we as owners, we get caught in that complexity typhoon, and it sucks us in. And let's be real honest as potential buyers as well. It's tempting. You're gonna go through sessions today. They're going to provide great information. They're going to give you a deep dive about this or that or the other, and we're going to learn a lot from that. But fundamentally, these transactions come back to some very simple elements, and so that's what we're going to focus on today. And even with platforms like Buy and Sell a Business and others working to make these buy-sell transactions simpler, and as someone who's been in this space for decades, I can tell you it is much simpler than it used to be. The reality is that it is still it's still a complexity narrative that defines this space. So what I want to encourage you to do is, again, set aside that unicorn dream, set aside the complexity, and let's focus on a very simple approach to creating a business that you can sell and evaluating a business that you can buy. And we're going to do that by focusing on one core concept and three basic questions. The core concept, I truly believe the failure to embrace this concept is what keeps most small businesses from selling successfully. I will suggest up front that when you hear this concept, you're going to go, well, that's obvious. This is what makes me, swipe right on business after business. No, right? We're looking at those businesses and they're failing to meet some very basic criteria for us. And so again, if you focus your energy on answering yes to the three basic questions that we're going to ask, if you focus your energy on understanding and achieving this core concept in the business you own, in the business that you buy, and also use it as a method to evaluate the businesses you look at. Just a side note, I get in trouble sometimes when I share this information. And I got in trouble the other day from an M&A attorney, and she got very upset. I was giving a presentation, shared some information, and she got very upset with me because she wanted to point out, well, yes, but what if this happens? What if that happens? What about this variation? What about this minutia? And she was accurate in everything she said. The problem was that the things she said applied to 0.02% of potential transaction, or applied to 0.1% of business sellers. This space is incredibly difficult to be successful in. If you are a small business owner, the likelihood of you selling your business, best numbers available say about 20% of small businesses will ever sell successfully. This is a space where if you want to be successful, it requires intention and it requires a focus on certain basics. So let's get to those basics. And by all means, please pop your questions into the chat. I'm not going to be following it while I'm going through this session, but I'll jump to it when we get to the question and answer session at the end. So this is where I'd ask for call outs if we were live. To sell your small business, you must have Every transaction that has ever taken place has this thing. If you want to sell your business, you need a buyer. So let's take a look at your most likely buyer. This is your most likely buyer. And why is it this individual? Well, said another way, your most likely buyer most likely looks like you. So we've got this little guy up here because he looks a little like me. When you think about who's going to buy your business, when you think about who's going to buy the business that you buy 6 months from now, and then you're going to turn it around in 3 years and sell it, the person who's going to buy that business is almost certainly another individual like you. That buyer is going to have a long list of things that they want, right? I want to buy a business in this industry. I want these characteristics. I'd like it located in this geographic area. I mean, I've gone through that brainstorming exercise with buyers before, and it's 20, 30, 40 different bullet points we come up with of what they're looking for in a business. But the reality at the end of the day is that there are really two needs that dominate what a buyer looks for when they determine whether or not they're going to be able to buy a business. And these two elements overwhelm everything else on their list. So what are they? Well, number one, your buyer needs to make a living, right? And I'm not talking about anything spectacular here. I'm not talking about never work again money or private jet money. I'm saying that the buyer of a business needs to make a living that's going to allow them to pay their rent or their mortgage, to buy groceries, to meet the basic necessities of their daily life. In addition to that primary need, they're also going to need to make loan payments. All right. They're going to need to service the debt that they incur to buy a business, right? You as buyers out there, I know you know this, right? I know that these two needs are substantial when you look at a business that you're looking to buy. Those loan payments, paying the debt that I incur to buy the business, it doesn't really matter how I finance it, right? If I finance it through a bank loan, the bank's going to expect to get paid back. If I finance it through seller financing, the seller is going to expect to be paid back. Even if I pay cash for the business, which is rare but does happen, I'm going to expect to recoup the funds that I pay into that to purchase that business. So these two needs, we all understand it, right? This is common sense. We have to do these things as buyer. But here's the key. To do that, I need to use the results that the business generates to be able to meet those two needs. The buyer of your business is going to need to make the loan payments and make a living based on the results the business generates. That is a key element, and it's something that, wow, I again, I wish I could see the looks on your faces, because I know you as buyers have had the conversations with sellers, have seen the listings where you look and say, how in the world is anyone supposed to pay for this? How in the world can a business that generates a loss, how can I buy that if the owner is expecting $1 million? It's just the disconnect here. You understand as buyers of this business. But the reality is that this is a basic concept that most small business owners are disconnected from. What they don't understand is that cash that generates from the business is what the buyer is going to use to pay for the business. And so what is our core concept? What is the concept I want sellers or aspiring sellers of small businesses to understand? It is that my results buy my business. Said another way, your business pays for itself. That concept and building a business that will do that is the core of what keeps most small businesses from being able to sell. I will sit down with a small business owner, and this has happened to me literally dozens of times. They will say, I want $1 million for my business. I want to sell my business for $1 million. And I say, okay, how is the buyer going to pay for that? And inevitably, they laugh and they say, well, that's the buyer's problem, isn't it? And I explain to him, I say, no, it's not the buyer's problem. It's your problem. In fact, it's your only problem as a seller, as an owner of a business, because I don't care how in love a buyer is with a potential purchase. If they can't figure out how to pay for it, the deal doesn't get done. So if you're an owner and you're serious about selling your business, what better way to facilitate that successful outcome than to create a business that cash flows at the price that you want for the exit of your business? Now, again, I get pushback here from owners at the time, because they're like, well, I should be able to get more for it. I'm not here suggesting that you should list your business for that amount. If you're in a hot industry, if things are popping at a higher multiple, by all means, list the business and try to sell it for more. But let's build our businesses to a place where we can achieve our exit goal based on the results that the business generates. And then if we can sell it for more than that, fabulous. But let's work from that floor of expected success, not from the place of make-believe that most of us as owners do. I'm assuming there's some existing small business owners out there right now. And when I get to this part of the presentation, I often will get the looks of concern or panic, because they want the $1 million payout, but they're not making any money. And they've been operating under the belief that there is some secret formula. The truth of the matter is that most business owners learn this fact when they go to try to sell their business. Many of them learn it from a business broker who tells them, I won't list your business. Many of them learn it from those of you in the audience who are buyers who'd say, how can I possibly do this deal? I'm sympathetic to those owners, because that's what I experienced in my first business. I was 10 years into my first business. I had started it from scratch, grown it to 50 full-time employees, and I was done. I was a crispy piece of toast. I was ready to do something else. And so I picked up the phone and I called the broker. And the first one had a conversation and said, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. No, I'm sorry, I can't help you. No, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Broker after broker. And I hung up, and I could not believe that I was here. I couldn't understand how I had gotten it so wrong. And that was a massive wake-up call for me. I have since learned it is how most small business owners learn about this topic. And so when Nunzio invited me to come talk to you, as some of you are existing owners, many of you are aspiring buyers, part of the reason that I wanted to share this with you is because I want you to understand what you know as buyers will apply in 3 years or 5 years or 12 years when you want to become sellers. My results buy my business. We need to create results in our business that generate the cash flow that will allow a buyer to buy our business. That's our core concept. Now, my results buy my business lead us to a place where we want to start asking those 3 key questions about the results. Those are going to lead us to a place where hopefully we create a very simple mantra for you as a small business owner to use whenever you think about selling your business. So, question number 1, are my results desirable? What do I mean by desirable? This isn't tricky. I'm not going to throw metrics at you. I'm not going to give you numbers. I'm going to say, if I, as a potential buyer, look at your business results, the financial results that you create, am I going to say, I got to get me some of that? Am I going to say, that is a life that I want to live? I know many of you who have bought a business before know how weird of an experience that is for potential buyers, because as potential buyers, we're not just buying this entity, we're essentially buying a life, right? We're buying a change in our life. We know that our lifestyle is going to change dramatically, and it's going to change based on the results that that business that we're acquiring produce. And so these buyers are asking, do I want your life? And they're really looking at that in two key areas. They're looking at your seller's discretionary earnings. And I know many in this audience are going to be familiar with that term. Those who aren't need to stick around for the next session by David Barnett, where I know he's going in depth on some of these terms and helping you figure out what they mean. A basic definition of seller's discretionary earnings: this is the financial benefit of owning the business. This is what you put in your pocket through different means at the end of the day. Seller's discretionary earnings, higher is better. Okay, again, we're keeping it simple, folks. The higher your seller's discretionary earnings, the more debt your buyer can take on to pay you a higher price for your business. Are my results desirable? Element 1, seller's discretionary earnings. Element 2, the owner's job. All right, what do I mean by the owner's job? I can't tell you how many small business owners I talk to who tell me they want to sell their business, and I say, why do you want to sell your business? And they look me in the eyes and they say, because I'm miserable. I work with unpleasant people. I work 12 hours a day in an unfriendly environment, poor working conditions. I'm just miserable. And I have to ask them, if your job sucks, why would someone pay you for the opportunity to do that? If your job sucks, why would someone pay you for the opportunity to do it? You as buyers, you understand this, right? You get this. But I don't know if there's some kind of formula that we start to drink as owners. We do this work, we build this business, and we start to hear in our head a voice that says, it can't be for nothing. There must be a payoff. And the truth of the matter is the payoff only comes if we've created it. So here we are. Are my results desirable? Seller's discretionary earnings and the owner's job. What makes for a good owner's job? Do you have flexibility? Do you have work you enjoy? Can you go to your kid's soccer game? What are the things that any of us would look at a job and say, that's a good job? If you as the owner of the business don't have it, your results aren't desirable. Now, as all of you know, this is a sliding scale, right? If I had a little mixing board, if I turn up seller's discretionary earnings, if there's more money in the business, well, people might be willing to work more hours in poor conditions. And so these things kind of go up and down, and the desired mix is different for every buyer. But at the core, desirability of the business results are key. That is question number 1. Are my results desirable? Question number 2, can a buyer duplicate my results? Asked another way, are you replaceable? Is it all about you as an owner? Did you build this business after having 25 years of industry experience? Will buyer need that same level of experience to do the same job? It's really interesting. I could tell stories of a half dozen owners that I'm working with right now who meet this particular criteria, where they are incredibly good at their jobs, right? But they've gotten that way after 17 years doing the work. And I, as a potential buyer, I have to look at that person and say, I know on day one, I am going to be miles behind their performance. And even if I'm up to speed much faster than they were, it's still years before I can run the business likely as well as that existing experienced owner might be able to in some areas. And I say in some areas because all owners have weaknesses. They're good at some things, they're bad at others. But that does that success, do those desirable results walk out the door when the existing owner does? It happens all the time. How do you create a proof that you are replaceable as the owner? Can a buyer duplicate my results? As an owner of a business, you want to be able to answer yes to that question. How do you do it? Two key elements. Number one, you build a team. What do I mean by build a team? Well, employees, independent contractors, outside consultants, any resource that you use that is a different individual than yourself creates an environment where your replaceability is easier, right? If I'm going to come in and buy your business and here's the team of 7 people that I know are going to be there the next day to do the work, even while you as the previous owner aren't, that's a key. Are the results dependent on you, or do they live with other people that will be there after you leave? The other key element, create systems, right? What do I mean by systems? I have walked into businesses where they've said, well, we don't have any systems. And I walk around the shop and there's pieces of paper posted on machinery that captures the steps that you use when you use that machinery. That's a system. The Post-it note that's taped up that says make sure to, that's a system. The software package that gives you a blow-by-blow of every step that you take, that's a system. The question that we're looking for here is around whether or not the information that creates the success lives somewhere other than someone inside of someone's head. Where does that knowledge live? When I was going through this process for my business, I mentioned I got 10 years in, I realized my business wasn't sellable. I went through this process right here. I had a great team already. However, I was that guy in the room, right? I was the guy running the business day to day. And the truth of the matter is I didn't know how to be there and not be that guy. So part of building a team for me was to find a different office location for myself 50 miles away from my main office where I would go and sit during the day. And I watched my team blossom and build my business better than had happened when I was there. Same thing with systems. Where's it written down? How do I translate what's in my head into a system that can be transferred to another, a new owner? So again, can a buyer duplicate my results? Question number 2, key, you as potential buyers know and understand that there's no way you're buying a business if you can't be confident in your ability to duplicate the previous owner's positive result. Last but not least, our last question is, can I document my results? This is, people take this one in two different ways. And again, if you're out there looking at a lot of businesses for sale, you know that some of this is the wink wink part of this space. Well, that's not all the income. Or here's the second set of books. There are shenanigans that take place in business ownership. And we as buyers, we run into that frequently. I think my favorite story, and I've seen this way more times than I would have thought I could going into it, but I had an owner, I was looking at a business for purchase, and I had an owner, after the broker left, tell me that I needed to come back to his condo if I wanted to see his second set of books. Okay, sure enough, I got back there and he had a second set of books. He had a journal ledger where he kept track of. I kid you not, what he said after showing me that second set of books is, but here's the deal, he said. I think the numbers might even be better than I show here because I think my brother is stealing from us. So not only did he start by explaining how he was stealing from the IRS, but then I was supposed to pay more for his business because he thought his brother was also stealing from him. Then he thought I should actually believe anything he told me, even though he just admitted he'd been lying to the agency that can put him in jail. So can I document my results? What do I need to do there? I need to keep clean results. Folks, if you can't prove it, it didn't happen. And as a colleague said to me the other day, you can't steal it twice. So if you want to be able to turn positive, desirable results into a successful sale, you need to be able to document those results. Again, this would be the point where I would look for raised hands of those who had run into that fraudulent issue before. The reality is, for every one of those, there's at least 10 small business owners who have messy books simply because it hasn't been prioritized. So more often than not, we're dealing with incompetence instead of dishonesty. But the truth of the matter is it just doesn't matter. Keep clean records if you want to see the outcome that you're looking for when you go to sell your business. So, folks, that's our simple approach. My results by my business is our core concept. Simply tells us that the new buyer is going to use the financial results of the business to pay for their living expenses and to service the debt, which means the results that our business creates determine what it is that we are able to get for our business. Key questions: are my results desirable? Can a buyer duplicate my results? And can I document my results? Now, this is where I normally stop my presentation. I'm going to flip this on its head for just a minute based on the audience that's here. You're out looking for businesses to buy. What kind of business do you want to look for? What is the mantra that you want in your head? The results by the business. And you need to ask, are the results desirable? Can I duplicate the results? And can they document the results? If you can get a yes to these three basic questions, folks, you are well on your way to finding a business that's worth buying. And answering these questions in the affirmative as a seller puts you in a place where you can successfully sell your business. At least you've dramatically increased the odds of being able to do so. Folks, a small business exit can change your life. Keep it simple. Focus on the basics. When the time comes, if you have a sellable business, if you can answer yes to those three questions, I guarantee the brokers and the experts and the merchants of complexity are going to line up to take care of this stuff for you. You and I both know you'll simply go back to Nunzio's platform to sell that business. But this is the key. Take a simple approach, change your business for the better, change your life for the better. You can find me at exitoasis.com, or again, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And I am going to stop sharing my screen and jump back to the chat and see if I can find out any questions that folks have. So let's see. Big money is sexier, no question. It's also such a narrow band that what did I see the other day? I did the numbers on private equities purchases in the US. We hear about private equity all the time. We hear how important they are. And I figured out based on the math that private equity buys 0.015% of businesses a year. 0.015%. Private equity is not going to buy your small business. Who's going to buy your small business? We just got done talking about that. So let's see. When evaluating a business for purchase that needs to be operated, the seller is currently operating, do you allow for an add back of the owner's salary when calculating the sale price? Or do you require it remains an expense that you can use to hire a manager, pay for yourself to manage it? It's a fair question. I think it depends on what your purpose is. There are people who, we go back to our basic message that we just talked about. If I'm buying the business to operate it, I'm going to use that income for myself to pay for my living expenses. If I'm going to hire someone to manage it, I've obviously going to have some means of paying for my own expenses. I think the data shows fairly clearly that most buyers are going to be working in the business themselves. So I would encourage you to focus on that potential buyer. When I look at it, I do consider that that income. But again, it depends on where you're going to use it. I hope that helps. Says a lot about the mindset of the seller and probably the quality of the business as well. Absolutely. The harder the owner works, the less appealing to purchase, doesn't have proper systems and process in place to operate, places a ton of operational risk on the business. Think about what the lender would think in that position if something happened to you. Absolutely. That's such a key question. This is a very cruel element of being a business owner. And let me explain what I mean by that. Both in my startups and in the businesses that I purchased, the startup period and the first few years of ownership is an incredibly time-intensive exercise for an owner. 12-hour days, 7 days a week, I've done that time. And I am a huge admirer of those that are putting their time in. Where the cruelty comes in is we need to do that to make our business survive as small business owners. Because we often don't have the deep pockets that would allow us to pay someone else to do that work. So we rely on our time, and we get so dependent and that approach to running the business becomes fully integrated in the business. And what we fail to realize is once we get past survivability and we start achieving success, we have to pull back on that commitment, that time commitment, and that approach to running the business. So essentially what we end up having to do is stop doing the very thing that we had to do to keep the business going. And that is a tough pivot to make as a business owner. I can tell you from personal experience, and I could share a dozen stories with you of other owners who struggle with that. But the truth is it is a substantial element to transitioning that business to a place where it's ready to be ready for sale. Let's see. Mark says, once I saw a plus 400K, ask me how, scribbled on the margins of the tax return. I had that happen just last year to me, Mark. I was looking at a business for purchase with a partner, and he wrote in on the income statement. He gave us the actual income. He was kind enough to circle it, so I knew what the truth was. Right? Again, it's such a weird dynamic. I've had owners get offended when I questioned their honesty after they admitted that they lied to me. It's a weird space. Documenting, if you can't prove it, it didn't happen. So We are coming up on 6:45, Nunzio. I'm understanding that I am supposed to wrap at that time, or should we keep looking for more questions? Let's see. Okay, 1:55. So we've got another 10 minutes. Let me see some of the other stuff that's here. 100% seller financing. Yeah. I tell you what, this is an interesting one. This is where I'm very, very squarely on the other side. There are a lot of people out there who are talking about the zero down purchase. There's a lot of buyers that aspire to that. The owners that I coach, we work to make sure that we can just wave you folks away. And I apologize if that causes offense, but from a seller's perspective, 100% seller financing is not the goal. The goal is often the exact opposite. Usually there's an element of seller financing in a deal, but not a big fan of that, and certainly not something I advocate for owners to look for. Again, when you go back to the model that we were just talking about, if my business generates enough cash flow to cover your living expenses and to service the debt, I don't have to consider zero down deals. I don't have to consider deals that aren't positive for both sides as an owner. So let's see. Other questions. How have you approached owners who have assets, machinery, or inventory that are worth more than what the cash flow can support? I tend to find there's a hard spot to make a deal happen. It's an incredibly hard spot to make a deal happen because the owners usually want value for both, right? They're not interested in a liquidation deal, even though the equipment is worth more. They want to see that the way they've got this stacked up. It's a tough place to be, and I will tell buyers this all the time that it's one of the dangerous side effects of being the first to talk to the seller, right? I know that we as buyers, and I include myself, we love to find the off-market deal. We love to find the opportunity that isn't listed with a broker. We love to find that owner who's just looking to sell. But here, I will tell you, here's the risk and problem with that, is that we as potential buyers end up having to be the ones that educate. And that is an incredibly painful exercise for a seller to go through. When I as a buyer explain, well, here's why I can't pay you X. Here's what your business is really worth. That is a tough place to be as a buyer. Our messaging can sometimes be doubted for obvious reasons. Well, you have a selfish interest in me looking for less. It's part of what I do as a coach with small business owners is we prep through that. I mean, the second meeting I have with the buyer who's looking to get ready, looking to create a business they can sell, is I put on the buyer's hat. I do a financial analysis on their business. I don't tell them what their business is worth because I'm not a valuation expert. I tell them what I can afford to pay though. And as buyers, you know that what you can afford to pay based on what the business produces is way more important than what some valuation report says it's worth. So yes, that equipment value can be a tricky one to deal with. We had an investor sell my family a food truck, branding, and the entire business for the cost of the equipment because his operators left the biz. So he was just looking to offload. Absolutely, Corey. It happens. It is why we as buyers, I figured out the secret key to being a good buyer and finding good deals. And that is that you need to fall in love with the search. You need to be so entertained and excited and rewarded by the act of searching for a good deal that in itself becomes the reward, because I don't know how else you sort through all the garbage that's out there and maintain the patience and self-discipline to wait for the 1 in 100 that you should actually take to the next level. And yes, Nunzio, cough, cough, and buyandsellabusiness.com. Let's see. Looking to buy my first business. Are the big websites like, I won't mention that name, a good place to find deals? The reason I ask is it seems like most people say that unless you buy a business off market, it isn't worth buying. Any truth to that? No, I don't think so. I've purchased businesses from listings. I've purchased businesses that weren't listed. The advantage, here's the deal. If it's a good business and you find it off market, fabulous. If it's a bad business and you find it off market, it sucks. If it's a good business and you find it online through a listing, that's good. If it's a bad business and you find it through a listing, that sucks. So, I mean, we know it's more competitive once they're listing. We know that good listings sell fast. We know all of that is true. But I think you've got to be open to do all of it. I've used both techniques. I used to leave notes behind. I used all sorts of techniques, and I've had modest success from all of them. But again, back to my comment, it's about falling in love with the search. So that to me is key. Let's see, what else do I have here? What percentage of businesses that you engage with initially do you take on as clients? Interesting question. A fairly high percentage of people who penetrate through will end up having a relationship. And why do I say penetrate through? Because if you follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn, I do a lot of content there. I've got a very specific approach to this stuff. I am a hyper pragmatist when it comes to this stuff. So if you're a small business owner who seriously wants to change your business and are ready to do tough things to do that, we can create good results. If you're looking, like the call I had earlier today, for someone to tell you that your unsellable business is sellable, I'm not that guy. You got to find a bad broker to list the business for you because they want the listing. I'm not. Guys, I've been a small business owner. That's my DNA. I've been a small business owner for 25 years. And I have too much respect for the work that we do as small business owners to BS about this stuff. And it's part of the reasons why I take the approach I did on the content today. There is a simple approach to this stuff. There is a straightforward, if we run a profitable business, if we create replaceability, again, are my results desirable? Can a buyer duplicate my results? Can I document results? If we focus on those basics, we can create fundamental change in our business and our life. One more question. Let's see. Looking to buy my first business. Nope, that's the one we just did. Let's see. This is in response to no, there's my real. So, okay, I think we've got them. I apologize if I missed anyone. It has been my pleasure to talk with you today. Let me cheerlead for my friend and colleague, David Barnett, who is next on the session. You're going to get serious value there. So head over to David's site after you do some networking and maybe check in on the expo. And Nunzio, again, thank you to you and giving me the opportunity to speak up at Boss Up. So welcome and thank you everyone for attending today.